Euromaxx Highlights. And here's your host, Anne O'Donnell.
Hello and welcome to Euromaxx Highlights. Thanks for joining us. Well, we put together the best bits of the week for you. Let's have a look at what's coming up. Unconventional young designers spice up Paris Fashion Week. Curvaceous, we look at the growing trend of retro car design. And Made to Measure, a Swiss company, specialises in manufacturing custom-made skis. Well, there's a major trend which is sweeping the tourism sector, and it's changing how we holiday. In recent years, the sharing economy means lots of young people are avoiding hotels, for example, to rent, swap or share accommodation. House swaps and couch surfing are definitely a cheaper option and can often even give you a more realistic impression of the city. Well, our reporter puts the online trend to test in Amsterdam.
I've arrived in Amsterdam, and my goal is to get to know the Dutch capital from a different angle than most of the city's 6 million foreign tourists. Instead of sleeping in one of the 55,000 available hotel beds, I'm going to be staying in a private room. Not in a house, but on a houseboat.
So it should be here. My host said it's the 4th boat over here. So I'm just counting. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. This should be it.
I booked the room a few days ago through the online platform Airbnb. I'm really curious to see how things go.
Hey! Hi, I'm Henrik. Yes. Nice to meet you.
Our dining room, our living room.
In return for 130 euros, Paula and Jeroen Slotte Sousa Lesche are sharing their home with me for the night. The Dutch-Brazilian couple have been living here for 4 years, in 290 square meters on board a former freighter. It's one of about 2,500 houseboats in Amsterdam. My room is towards the back.
I guess I'll see you guys around.
Yeah,
Yes, we'll be.
You're just now part of our
Weekend.
family.
Perfect.
And that's quickly how it feels. First I hang out and relax with Paula and Jeroen for a couple of hours, loading up on Amsterdam tips. Then they tell me about being Airbnb hosts.
First was an opportunity to meet more people, and and everybody feels at home. That's what we like.
Full house.
Full house.
That's what we like, you know?
We left with some friends. So they come as guests, they leave as friends, and some of them even came to our wedding last year.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Next I decide I should probably find out a little more about the city. On the social media platform Connected, users share their talents, whether playing the guitar or sharing insider information on Amsterdam. I make a date with Marlies in the afternoon for a private tour of the city. I decide I want to drive to the appointment. An app on my smartphone guides me to the closest car in a car-sharing fleet. Around 350 of them are scattered throughout the city. Although I like driving, it's clear that Amsterdam is better discovered on a bike. So I decide to get one. A rental agency is easy to find. There are an estimated 880,000 bicycles in the city. There are actually more bikes than people. But even the bike is useless for the last stage. I'm glad that crossing to the spot where I'm supposed to meet my guide is scenic, because there's no sign of Marlies when I get there. So my private tour guide just cancelled our little date that we have. I think that just happens, so I will have a look around on my own. It's time to share my experiences with my colleagues in Berlin. A selfie is in order. I'm getting hungry now after my walk around town. But rather than dining out in a restaurant, I'll be eating at someone's home.
Hey! Hello. I'm Henrik. Nice to meet you.
Petra Hart cooks about 5 times a month for complete strangers. I reserved a place on the internet, just like the couple from Rotterdam. Together with her husband, she served up 3 courses with wine, all for 28 euros. Her guests mainly come because of the cozy atmosphere.
We got a very well-known man here. And then we asked him, why do you come here? Why don't you just go to one of our Michelin star restaurants? And he said, well, that's just, it's too heavy for me. I will get photographed, I will get paparazzi in my face, and I just want to have a very nice private dinner and have a conversation with some real people.
Guests and hosts can also rate their experiences online. Positive reviews make it more likely that others will have a nice experience as well. But by the next day, I had enough of sharing. I enjoyed the sun on the 40-meter-long roof terrace by myself.
It was such a beautiful day yesterday, and I think it is because I met people I wouldn't have met if I wouldn't have shared their houses like here on the boat or the dinner tables yesterday. And I really think I've got an impression of Amsterdam that I would have missed if I traveled in a normal way.
Thanks to sharing, I could really be a part of the Amsterdam vibe.
Right, next up, the Paris Fashion Week kicked off in style on Tuesday. Designers are unveiling their autumn-winter collections with some of the usual suspects, coupled with some very exciting new talent as well. Well, fashion giants like Chanel and Dior wowed with their creations, but it's the new generation of designers causing a real stir on the Parisian catwalks.
These are the latest creations from French designer Léa Pécre. The 30-year-old is one of the up-and-coming artists featured at this week's Paris Fashion Week. She learned her trade with Jean-Paul Gaultier and Isabelle Marant, but she decided to break out on her own.
I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet quickly. Maybe I could have worked longer for a fashion label, but I was too impatient to be independent.
This is the second time that Léa has been on the official calendar of the Pret-à-Porter shows in Paris. The city's Fashion Chamber of Commerce has specific criteria for participants.
We look for people who are different from others, whose fashion can be exported. That means it has to be creative enough to interest foreign purchasing agents and the foreign press. What's interesting is that in our little milieu, buyers, journalists, and fashion experts eventually reach a consensus about who is a new talent. And that's the case with Léa Pécre.
Léa went into business for herself 3 years ago and has developed a style all her own. A mixture of feminine and masculine components with a lot of attention to detail.
I like it masculine and I like it comfortable, and I'm increasingly developing this side. On the other hand, I like a certain feminine touch, a woman wearing high heels. I dream of being a woman like that too. And in my collection, dream and reality mix.
Her style derives from men's fashions. You can see her talent through the way she designs and cuts her suits. She makes men's fashion soft and feminine and creates a new form of womanliness. It's not sexy or vulgar. We need a new term for it. She reminds me of Jacquemus, who is also very young and, like her, brings a breath of fresh air to the fashion scene.
The 25-year-old Jacquemus is another name to follow. His show is a must-see, even if it's being held in a rundown old building. But that doesn't scare the fashion's elite or its top critics. Jacquemus's background is far from the Paris fashion scene. He grew up in the country and studied fashion in Paris, but quit after only a month.
I'm the son of a farmer who had no contact with the fashion scene, and now I'm creating fashion. Maybe that's why I have such a rough approach.
His models come out barefoot, and his unstructured asymmetrical dresses bear lots of skin. Jacquemus makes fashion his way, ignoring all the familiar conventions.
This time I was influenced by childhood. I imagined a little boy or girl just having fun, picking out all kinds of things and sewing clothes out of them and putting on masks and makeup. This freedom and naivete that kids have fascinates me.
His unconventional approach may well be the key to his success. Recently, for the second time, the young designer was nominated for the Louis Vuitton Fashion Award.
He shows us creations that aren't really classical in the way we'd expect them to be. He's changing our perspective on fashion. These creative young talents are the designers of tomorrow who are making the fashion of tomorrow. They have the French know-how, along with a new energy and a certain dose of optimism.
For now, the young designers are presenting their creations under their own names, but it might just be a matter of time before they're scooped up by the big fashion houses.
Well, one of the biggest car fairs in the world has opened its doors in Switzerland. The Geneva Motor Show attracts enthusiasts from all over the world to check out the newest models, technologies and designs. Well, the auto industry is generally insatiably hungry for all things new and shiny, but there's always room for the retro trend. Let's find out why classic cars crop up again and again.
It's not just American car manufacturers whose latest models are throwbacks to the 1960s. Mercedes is also bringing back the Maybach Pullman. And the new retro-styled Mercedes SL is an homage to the 300 SL with its 1950s racing pedigree. That car also served as a role model for the new Mercedes GT, which head designer Gordon Wagner presents in Geneva.
Of course, retro per se is also a feeling. Why does everyone like classic cars? There's no one who doesn't like them. Why is that? First, when I look back to the past, I'm always nostalgic. I was young, life was beautiful and simple. Your memories are positive. That's what's great about Mercedes. There are so many icons to work with.
The distinctive lines of the 300 SL Gullwing, which was built between 1954 and 1957, have influenced almost every sport car designer since. Wagner has been with Mercedes since 1997. From the start, he learned how to mine tradition to forge the cars of the future. He learned the basics from Peter Pfeiffer, Mercedes' previous head of design, who retired in 2008. Pfeiffer's final model was the SLS AMG, a remake of the legendary 300 SL.
If you develop a design strategy and combine that with a marketing strategy, then, assuming you have a great history, you can pick up on certain design elements. But you've got to give them such a modern interpretation that they only have something to do with them in thought. How can I put it? So that there's just a faint memory.
From 2001, the SL sports car started to look more curvy. By that time, the VW Beetle had already reinvented itself. BMW jumped on the retro bandwagon and successfully produced a new version of the Mini. The Fiat 500 celebrated its resurrection. Paolo Tumanelli has traced this development in his books about automotive design.
Why did Europeans invent retro? Because it was something the Japanese didn't have. The Japanese were the world's biggest automakers in the 1980s. So the European designers said to themselves, hang on a minute, the Japanese copy us, but they can't copy our past because we own that. So let's use our heritage and remake it into something new.
Giorgio Giugiaro is a pioneer of retro design. Together with his son Fabrizio, he created the company Ital Design Giugiaro. Back in the 1990s, he brought back curvy, classical lines with his prototype for the Bugatti Veyron.
Because they're things that are practically rooted in our instinct. Because they're so deeply connected with our experience that we simply don't want to give them up.
In 2015, retro design is still going strong. Ever new variations of the Mini and the Fiat 500 are being presented. And McLaren's new sports car boasts an exterior that owes much to a predecessor that set new standards 20 years ago.
It's not retro design, we have to say that is postmodern, is more logical, where it is possible to keep the value of certain styling in lines, in solution, and update with the new technology.
Technologically, the Quant F is a revolutionary innovation in the e-car market. Powered by what they've dubbed flow cell batteries, the car has a maximum range of 800 kilometers. But when it comes to design, the Quant F is decidedly old school, sporting huge gull-wing doors.
Well, he's the most famous duck in the world. Now, Donald Duck stories have made their way onto comic strips across Europe. Artists tasked with drawing the cartoon figure are carefully cast, and only a few make it into that elite circle. Well, one of the most famed artists is Norwegian Arild Midthun, and we caught up with him in Oslo.
The trademark features of arguably the most famous and feisty duck on the planet. Arild Midthun is Norway's only official Disney cartoonist and personally designs every cover of Donald Duck strips published there. He's famous himself among Scandinavian comic fans.
I started drawing the ducks about 10 years ago. My favorite character in Duckburg is Donald Duck, because his personality is really our worst parts of our personality. And at the same time, the one character that I enjoy the most to draw is Magica the Spell, because she's sexy, she's a bit dangerous, and she's graphically very interesting to draw.
Disney isn't Arild Midthun's actual employer, but Egmont, a pan-Scandinavian publishing company that's owned the regional rights to the characters since the 1940s. Arild regularly meets up with writers Knut Nærum and Tormod Løkling at the Oslo branch of Egmont to conjure up new stories.
Now we are all working together, making, you know, as good Donald Duck stories as we can. And our motto is that the best duck story is yet to be told.
Midthun has even had the honor of an entire edition being dedicated to him. This is the German edition. With Donald Duck's popularity having waned in the US, most of the comics now come from Europe. For years, the sailor-suited American icon wasn't even available in his native country, until his reintroduction earlier this year in a limited circulation.
In the US, the superheroes have kind of taken over the market. And I don't know if it's anything with the American frame of mind, because, you know, they want to save the world, they want to be big and strong. While we Europeans, we are content with going about our daily business and not doing much about it.
In Europe, the Disney classics remain by far the biggest player in the comics sector. And most of the stories now originate in Norway.
What is special in Norway, it's a long, long tradition. And I think that it's going from parents to children. And it's a sort of two layers in the Donald Duck magazine. It's one content and humor for the children and another content and humor for the grown-ups.
Midthun's influence is manifest in the regular references to Norwegian mythology, such as the story of Thor's hammer. Many episodes are set in real-world European cities. In this case, Lübeck in northern Germany. 50-year-old Arild Midthun was born in Bergen on the west coast in 1964 and now lives in Sund, just south of Oslo. The picturesque little coastal town is a popular retreat for artists seeking inspiration and rejuvenation. In his spare time, Midthun hosts the occasional workshop at a local school.
When I'm doing workshops like these, it's not really about how to draw Donald Duck. It's basically about visual communication. And then, on top of it, I'm always saying something about, you know, how the universe is put together, the environment, you know, climate changes. I think that Donald Duck, the comics that I do, you know, they are really a nice way to get in touch with the children and then to try to convey something which I think is very important.
Midthun also pens cartoons for a variety of native Norwegian comics. Being a cartoonist, the murderous attack on the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo in January 2015 was an especially big shock.
As an artist, as a father, It's very important for me that people are allowed to say what they mean and not having to risk their lives in doing so.
Arild Midthun wants to entertain, but also to educate with insightful tales about the contemporary real world.
Well, we actually have a drawing by Midthun to give away. We will be posting this poster on our Facebook page, and if you share it, then you will be in with a chance of winning it. So get sharing. Now we'll cross over to Switzerland to catch up with one skier come entrepreneur. He knows best when it comes to designing gear for that optimal downhill experience. So it's not just suits and shoes that can be cut according to your measurements. Believe it or not, you can also get custom-made skis to improve your speed on the slopes.
Skiing in the Alps is getting faster and more extreme, and people are going farther off-piste. They're also becoming more demanding when selecting their equipment. We asked several skiers what they find most important.
The width under the binding and in front, plus the radius is important.
It has to be right for me, for deep snow, for stability when I ski faster.
The drawing, the design.
They're nice and wide at the bottom, and they're very balanced. I quite like a sturdy pair of skis.
Rumor has it the perfect ski can be found in Andermatt, Switzerland. That's where the ski manufacturer Birdos is located. Dan Luttrell, who has since made Switzerland his home, built his first pair of skis more than 10 years ago. Since then, he's made a business of it, building customized skis especially for freeride skiing.
The most important thing is that the ski needs to fit the customer, it needs to fit the skier. A lot of times when I'm guiding, when I'm working at the mountains, I see guests and the ski doesn't fit them. It's a good ski, there's nothing wrong with it, it's well built, it's a fine ski, but it doesn't fit their skiing style. Maybe it's too long, maybe it's not the right width.
Dan Luttrell always tries to advise his clients well. Many of them come personally to Andermatt, like Patrick Boussard. Birdos has 3 basic models that can be tailored to the individual skier.
I'm looking for a ski that's very maneuverable, but also stable. If I ski into a deeply carved-up area at high speed, I need to be able to plow right through it.
Dan likes to go to the slopes with his customers for a test ride with his skis. They are designed for both on and off-piste use. Patrick Boussard seems pleased so far.
They ski well, I have to say. I'm thrilled.
The test run gives Dan Luttrell an idea of a customer's style of skiing. That enables him to cater to the skier's needs. What he has learned, he then applies in his studio. Almost every aspect of a pair of skis can be modified. The length, the side cut, the flexibility, and of course the design.
We can fit the ski to how the person wants to ski and also how the person is, their size, their age, their strength, their weight, all these factors combined with their skiing style. This can influence how the ski should be built. And then when the ski really fits with the person, then you put the ski on and it works with you, and instead of having to fight with the ski. And I think that's the main thing, just that the ski, it fits you, it works with you. It's like when a shirt fits you, you know, when your clothes fit, it feels good. And it's the same with skis.
Each pair is made by hand. That usually takes a day. Birdos produces about 100 pairs of skis each year. Custom-made skis are a niche market, but one that more and more winter sports equipment companies are moving into. For example, the Ertel Rens company in Munich makes ski boots. Both the inner and the outer boot are made to fit the client's foot precisely. The Swiss company Mountain Force offers tailor-made pants for the ski slopes. The company Radical in Zurich serves skiers, but especially snowboarders. It's considered a pioneer in tailor-made articles.
There's definitely a potential there. There's definitely people who want this. I think a lot of people don't know about it as well, and it's always going to be a small market, but it is a market there, and I think there's definitely people who appreciate this and find it important.
A customer has to wait about 2 weeks before Birdos delivers his customized skis. The price for a pair begins at 1,900 euros. Some would say that's a lot of money for a pair of skis, but those who can afford it say it's worth the investment.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.